Hi everyone, welcome to Ecotopia, the place on TV for all your unsanitised, bacteria-free, future-focused environmental information. In this week's episode, Lara meets Chris Judd and finds out what's happening with our recycling. Leilani meets some politically active bikies. Brent sets up a veggie patch. And right now, Jackson meets Team Aurora as they prepare for the 2013 World Solar Challenge.
Good morning, Ecotopians, and welcome to Casey Fields in Melbourne's southeast. Recently, a man named Andrew Sampson told me his solar car could go 100 kilometres per hour, and I thought, bullhickey, you science nerd, you can't impress me with your super sleek, fast, energy-efficient design. But now that I'm here, I'm pretty impressed. Andrus is the chairman of the Aurora Solar Car Team. Aurora have competed in every World Solar Challenge since its inception, with an impressive record of 4 second placings and 1 win overall. Everyone here is a volunteer, which we love, and in 2013 the rules have changed a little.
So the time has come for a new generation of solar car, something that the general driving public can really relate to. And so the World Solar Challenge is moving towards vehicles that have 4 wheels in the new classes and have much more passenger car like characteristics. And so we will be going in the cruiser class, and that requires room for at least 2 seats. So this will give the cars very much a GT or a sports car look, if you will.
These two cars couldn't look much more different, but really the aim of the Aurora team is to become as recognisable and familiar to all of us as your regular Commodore.
Whilst this car is a pure competition vehicle, the next car, Aurora Solaris, will be very much a car that you can register for the public road. And we intend to be the first completely solar electric road registered vehicle in Australia.
Some of the benefits of solar cars are very obvious. They're driven by the sun rather than traditional fuel. But this car also contains a whole lot of efficiency solutions that you may not have even realised.
One of the big ones is our motor. It's 98.5% efficient. Your average petrol engine's about 30 to 40% efficient. And that's a large reason why the car can perform so well with little power that it does actually have. At 100k an hour, it actually will output more torque than a V6 Commodore.
What are some technologies that came from solar car engineers and are now used widely in regular cars?
One of the key ones that we've got are tyres supplied by Michelin. It's a low rolling resistance tyre, so that's actually available and fitted to production cars right now. You can go and buy your bit of solar car technology and bolt it to your car at home. We run our tyres at 70 psi, which is very, very high. Your average car is about 36 or so. But yes, higher tyre pressures do save fuel. Okay, the car's fitted with what we call regenerative braking, or in the Formula 1 world its name is KERS. What that is that the electric motor at the front works as a generator when the car is slowing down, and up to 70% of the energy that's used to accelerate a car can be recovered during the braking process. We've been using it since 1993. Formula 1 has been using it for the past 3 years. The Toyota Prius was the first major production car that had it fitted to my knowledge. A lot of the other team members are in it for the racing, in it for the technology. We come from all walks of life. We've got tradesmen on the team. I work as a teacher. We've got engineers, students, so the whole gamut, and it's a colourful, different organisation in terms of everyone's approach, which is what makes us unique.
Everyone involved with the team is a volunteer. They're working on a shoestring budget, they're doing it in their own time, and they're doing amazing work that even a major company could struggle to do.
I'm checking the charges on the batteries, that they are all balanced, which technically means at the same voltage.
So thanks to the Aurora Solar Car Team, I now know that a street legal, fully aerodynamic, solar powered car is right around the corner. You've been watching Ecotopia, where the future lives. Good night.
Australians produce more rubbish per person than any other nation in the world, with the one exception being the United States. Each Australian household throws away over 1.3 tonnes of rubbish each year. Now when this ends up in our garbage bins and it heads off to landfill and it starts decomposing, it produces a gas called methane, which is far more harmful than carbon dioxide, which we know is a leading contributor to climate change. The good news is that Australians are doing really well with their recycling. Over 62% of our packaging waste is actually recycled last year, and that was an increase on 5.5% for the year before. So we're getting better. However, about 8 to 10% of what does end up getting picked up in our recycling has to go to landfill because it contaminates the load. So there's still some areas that we need to work on. Some of the more tricky ones are things like the food containers. Something like that would contaminate the load because it's still got the food waste left in there. So we need to scrape that out. Don't need to wash it and make it too perfect, but you at least need to make sure most of the food's gone. Same with drink bottles. What have we got here? Make sure all the liquid is out of your glass and your plastic bottles. Aerosol cans. If you take off the plastic nozzle, that is best practice, and make sure they're empty as well, so they can be recycled these days. Another one which we can still improve on is steel cans. A lot of people aren't actually recycling these, so if you just give them a bit of a rinse, see, it doesn't need to be quite perfect, but give it a bit of a rinse, and that's an easy way to recycle as well.
Don't put your recyclables in a plastic bag because this can't be recycled. If you want to recycle the plastic bags, best to take a bunch of them down to your local supermarket, and that's where they can be recycled. So when you're at the supermarket, when you're looking at products, think about which ones are going to be able to be recycled easily. I guess just try and recycle as much as possible.
So what exactly happens to our recycling once it's been picked up at curbside? Shall we go take a look?
What we've got here is the products just come in on the truck. We've emptied it out. But what the loader driver does when the loads come in is they turn the load over and they just move it around and break it up a little bit, so when it goes through the mirthing process, we're able to make sure that the material that's meant to float over the bounce conveyors like the paper actually does that, rather than it all being compacted together and not working through the mirth properly. Okay, Lara, it's the first part of the process here. It's a manual sorting process. As the product has come out of the trucks, these guys here are actually taking out the material that is contaminated. Obviously the stuff that's already in the bag, we like the material outside of the bags so that it doesn't end up going to landfill here. We take the cardboard out as well because the cardboard goes directly over into our cardboard shed, and the rest of the process goes through to separate the different materials from here. What happens next is we obviously have to get the paper out of the process. We bring that up over bounce conveyors because it takes a two-dimensional process, allowing the paper to float to the top. Things like the three-dimensional bottles, PET, plastics and the like, they'll fall through the trommel. We use magnets to attract steel and technology like eddy currents to repel things like the aluminium. Here behind us we have a plastic auto sort facility, and what that's doing is taking the plastics and actually optically working out whether it's PET, HDPE, and just sort separating the different forms of plastic.
So we've heard what happens inside the materials recovery facility, and this is what happens outside when it's all compacted and ready to begin the next stage of its journey to become a new product. So by recycling and doing it right, we're helping to save natural resources, water and energy, and we're helping keep waste out of landfill, and we're helping to address climate change.
People of Ecotopia, your attention for the next few seconds. My loyal subjects, turn on your light, but only to light what you would see. Don't let it glow emptily. Hold on to power preciously. Graceful harmony, not waste. 'Tis grateful, luxurious taste. Thank you, and not me, you fools. Good night.
check this place out. An old backyard in what used to be an industrial area. Now, as you can imagine, this soil's been exposed to a whole lot of waste and toxic material. And if you look closely, you can see the hard rubbish. The boys that live here have tried to get a garden growing with mixed results. Now, my thinking is the soil isn't good enough for growing. So Paddy, how long have you been growing this garden for?
Oh, look, it's about 6 months now, but yeah, as you can see, it's taking its time. Not really flourishing at the moment.
It most possibly is the soil, and I think I've got a solution for you.
Yeah, cool.
So we're going to put together a raised garden bed today, made out of an old fruit bin or apple crate.
It's great that I've got Fabian here to help me. Finding a wooden box isn't too difficult, but he knows exactly where to put it, what kind of soil we need in it, and what's good to grow right now. What are we doing here, Fabian?
We're just trying to level it out. I'm going to drop that back down. We'll have a look. Yeah.
Looking good, Fabian.
It's nice work, mate.
So Fabian, what are we using here to fill up the apple crate?
All right, what we need is 1 bale of hay or straw. We'll need half a bale of pea straw, half a metre of compost, some organic fertiliser, and then we'll also use some worm castings. We'll also use a bag of organic potting mix and compost.
Could you talk to us a little bit about the concept of Little Veggie Patch, LVP?
Yeah, the Little Veggie Patch Company, basically we go in and install vegetable gardens for people. The other thing that we do is old fruit bins, which we've got here, an apple crate, where we upcycle. So therefore we grab the old bin and then we recondition it, we line it with some plastic just to add a bit of longevity to the life of the bin, and then we'll leave the bottom open for drainage. Raised garden beds work well in courtyards where potentially you don't have any soil whatsoever.
So what are some of the environmental benefits of growing your own veggies?
You're not having to go to the shop to necessarily to buy those vegetables, so you're cutting down your food miles. It teaches you about seasonality. It's not about being self-sufficient, it's about just being sustainable and subsidising. So you're always going out there, go, all right, well, I've got some meat in the freezer, I'm going to defrost it, I'm going to make a meal. I've got some rocket outside, I'll go pick some rocket, make a salad, and then all of a sudden you've got a meal.
And now Fabian's told us what's what. It's time to get to work.
And you can use straw as well. The first step is just the bale of hay. Break it up into what they call biscuits.
Yep.
So.
Cool, I'm hungry.
Yeah. Layer biscuits down the bottom.
Oh, yeah.
Just act as a filler more than anything. Now we go grab some compost. And away you go. So we need 3 of those pretty much.
Oh, I'll go get them. So there we go.
Yeah. No, here mate, just you know, bring the whole lot in and you'll be here forever otherwise. I'm just going to compact it a little bit. And most gardening people go, oh, you're compacting the soil, but you find with this stuff, it's going to sink quite a lot otherwise. So the idea is to actually compact it a little bit.
Nice and soft.
It definitely is. This is just a mixture of chicken manure, blood and bone, and fish emulsion pretty much. Next step is to add our half a bale of pea straw, or you could use lucerne, which is high in nitrogen. So the idea is it's going to help feed the plants with nitrogen. We lift, let it there.
Now if you're finding this process a little strenuous, you can always spice it up a little bit by doing this with a little dance. Would you like? Up to you though.
Now we add some more.
Just 2 or 3 handfuls of fertiliser.
More fertiliser. This is just a bag of compost, organic compost. What to look for whenever buying organic stuff is certified organic, and I'll have a stamp. And the final touch, piece de resistance, is half a bag of worm poo. Good bacteria to add to the garden. So you're trying to bring the soil to life.
Fab said it's best to let the soil settle for a couple of weeks, but the boys are getting very impatient, so we're going to plant the seeds today.
So just cover those seeds so they don't get blown away.
So there we have it, our brand new veggie patch. Fab's putting on the seaweed solution, and just in a few days' time we're going to see some sprouts, and in about 6 weeks' time the boys are going to have some much needed nourishment.
See you later, Brent.
Hey! See you later, Fab.
Everyone loves riding bikes. It's great fun. Plus, it reduces traffic congestion and greenhouse gas emissions. Unfortunately, it can be hard to find adequate space to ride your bike. Today, in Melbourne's East, we're setting out to meet some people who have taken matters into their own hands to address this issue. Let's go meet them now.
Whitehorse Cyclists are a group of passionate bikies, push bikies that is. Michael, why do you ride your bike everywhere?
Of course, there's the health side where you know, we get benefits in fitness and avoiding illnesses and things that plague people as they get older. So look, it's really a win-win for everybody.
And I suppose cycling can be done by people of all ages.
Yeah, absolutely, you can, and this is why good facilities are required, because not everybody's comfortable riding on roads, mixing it with cars. Some of us are, but others are not.
I think an interesting point is too that a lot of people think it's either cycling or cars and that they're at odds with each other, but I think, and I'd be interested in your opinion, that they can coexist quite comfortably.
I think they can coexist. I think there needs to be a lot of work done to encourage, to foster a sense of sharing the road. I think that's improving. Civic Roads and the government authorities can work hard to engender a greater spirit of sharing the road. There would be a huge improvement.
So we hear a lot about the environmental benefits of cycling. Do you want to talk through those a bit?
Well, I think the main environmental benefits are the fact that bikes are non-polluting. They don't emit CO2 or pollution as cars do. I mean, cars have improved a lot in recent years, but with a bike there's absolutely no pollution at all. And and also there's the congestion factor. You know, a bike probably occupies on the road 1/10 of the space of a car.
Don't be fooled by the patient and calm exterior of this group. They are a determined lobby group, mixing it with all sides of politics.
We make a point of dealing with our local members of parliament, and we've found from all political parties, you know, on a one-on-one basis, they're really good to sit down and talk to, and they're interested, and they will do what they can. And I suppose the problem is to get that surfaced in the great mass of other priority projects the government's being pushed to do. You've got to sort of have a marketing element to it. You've got to produce something that looks sort of professional and convincing.
One of the things we have been very conscious of is the need to be positive. We put ourselves in the seat of the politician. What is it that they want? And what they need is a quick grab of a project that is clearly documented, and this project was clearly documented.
In producing this, we walked the track from Box Hill out to Ringwood, and we worked out where the optimum path was. We've also shown here on this page how this path links up with other bike paths that already exist. We try to focus political attention at the local government and the state government level, and even at the federal government level. So we work at all three levels of government, and we try to do it constructively.
So, as conscientious citizens, how can we get involved and make change in our community to make Melbourne be the city we want it to be in 20, 50 years?
Well, I think we all have an obligation to participate in society. I think many people, unfortunately, think that they do their democratic duty every 3 years when they go and vote. I think many of the great advances actually come through community action. Everybody should be encouraged to participate in whatever area they feel strongly about, whether it's childcare or whether it's environmental protection, you know, to go and engage with the political representatives and let them know that this is important to you, and I think politicians do listen to this. Things don't happen because they will do it, because they are us. So if you always wait for them, you'll be waiting a long time. Just look for the opportunities and find like-minded people and just go and do it.
The community's going to love their bike path. It's going to keep them fit because they're out being active. It's going to keep them safe because they're away from the traffic, and it's low on emissions. This is just an example of a group of people who are passionate about their environment coming together to make a change. They've created a version of Ecotopia. Imagine what you could do in your own backyard.
One common vision of Ecotopia is a world where people live in total harmony with nature. The idea hopes for a land where there's no further extinction of species, where everyone has access to clean water and nutritious food, and where plant and animal ecosystems are allowed to flourish alongside human settlements. That might sound idealistic, but the pursuit of such a world has been the driving force behind one of Australia's most well-respected environmentalists, David Holmgren. Holmgren is the co-originator of the permaculture concept. The idea was born during Holmgren's university days in Tasmania. Permaculture. It's a big idea and one that's spawned some amazing projects across the globe. I'm a bit skeptical myself. How does it all work? Let's ask David himself to help us understand. David, how would you define permaculture?
Well, of course, permaculture in a lot of ways is, as a concept, is a theory of everything. It's a design system, but it's a design system for both sustainable living and sustainable land use. So it starts from the basic thing that we are animals, we need to eat, and we have other basic needs of clean water and shelter, and how do we provide those in a way that is following the design principles of nature.
What are the outcomes of successful permaculture?
The main achievement is to get off the addiction of dependence on fossil fuel. Not that fossil fuels are inherently bad, but they're obviously both depleting in the process of being exhausted, so future generations will not have the privilege of the power and usefulness of fossil fuels, but also because they are damaging, as we know, in terms of climate change. So that outcome of starting to live from renewable resources, which obviously people think of things like solar power, but of course plants are our primary solar power factories.
Alright, so what I'm doing here is taking out the corn that's been harvested and leaving the ears that haven't been harvested. Rather than waiting for it all to be done, I'm taking this stuff out a bit earlier so I can use it as goat fodder.
How we work with plants, with nature, to do things in that way reduces that consumption of those depleting resources. Another outcome is the creative reuse of all of the things that have already been manufactured in the past. We think about recycling, but that's really a very primitive idea, like taking a glass bottle, smashing it, melting it down, making another glass bottle. Whereas when we fill the glass jar that has originally come from the supermarket with home produce and put it on the shelf, that's a much more creative reuse. So a lot of permaculture projects illustrate this, taking what already exists in the world and creatively reusing it.
Can city people embrace permaculture in their own backyards?
Permaculture activism really started with a focus on the backyard in suburbia. A, because that's where most Australians live, but B, because we saw that there was a lot of opportunity still where people had some degree of control over their own immediate environment. A lot of people still design and manage their own garden, and that has historically been a place where the household economy outside of the monetary economy has survived.
So with all these benefits, who or what is resisting future permaculture design?
There is a lot of established interests, obviously, in the globalised economic system. When we redevelop the household and community economies, there's less corporate profits and there's less tax base for centralised governments. So obviously there's interests at the top of the global economy and the larger scales in human systems that naturally see these sorts of developments as a threat. The other thing I think is that in rich countries like Australia is now the third richest country in the world after Switzerland and Norway. It seems like, why would you bother to do things in a more sustainable way? Because it looks like a little bit of work. And although permaculture systems use more design intelligence, you could say the spoilt brat mentality of society is another thing holding back. And I think it's important not to just point the finger at the big bad boys, but recognise it's ourselves that are holding that back as well.
Living out your life and dreaming.
With all that in mind, let's have a look around Aurora, this spectacular property near Dalesford.
Knows how to explain the shit I've seen. And my boys are like, yo, don't be so superstitious.
Aurora is a fully functioning permaculture settlement. It features a solar-powered house, mixed food gardens, orchards, dams, and livestock, all on 1 hectare. We can all bring a bit of permaculture into our own lives. What we eat, where we live, and how we get around. And then we'd be one step closer to Ecotopia.
How rad was that, Ecotopians? You want to have your say and get stuck into the discussion? Jump online on ecotopiatv.com or our Facebook page. In next week's episode, Rati helps build a structure that could last for 2,000 years, and Adam discovers how good an organic beer can taste at Dino's Best Luck Grog. See you next week, Ecotopians.